Airline forces man in wheelchair to crawl to plane. For some stupid reason, many places in the civilized world are still not wheelchair accessible. Well-known disabled rights activist Hideo Kijima experienced this firsthand earlier this month as he was trying to board a flight back to his home in Osaka, Japan from the island of Amami. Paralyzed from the waist down since a rugby injury in his teens, on June 3rd, Kijima was informed by Vanilla Air staff that he would not be able to board the plane because wheelchair-accessible ramps and elevators were non-existent. When his friends offered to carry him up the tarmac, they were denied, as it would be a safety regulations violation. Pissed off and needing to get home, Kijima decided to ditch his wheels and crawl up the stairs, one step at a time. Vanilla Air's slogan is, "Creating New Sky Experience." Kijima would surely agree. Aside from a similar incident in 2002 with Vanilla Air's parent airline, he claims he's never been prevented from boarding a commercial aircraft as a result of his disability. Vanilla Air has since apologized to Kijima, and as a result of the recent backlash, an electric wheelchair lift was installed last week. It's about damn time.
Say no to safe spaces on YouTube. Support TomoNews at patreon.com/TomoNews.
Airlines these days, am I right?
Delta Airlines settles in disabled man's lawsuit. Baraka Kanan was paralyzed in a car accident in 2000. He booked a flight with Delta Airlines in 2012 and was assured that he'd be given mobility assistance in accordance with the Air Carriers Access Act, which states airlines must provide boarding assistance to individuals with disabilities using ramps, mechanical lifts, or other suitable devices. When the plane arrived in Nantucket, Kanan was told that they didn't have the wheelchair or a lift to get him off the plane. He was forced to crawl through the cabin on the plane. Then he had to crawl down the stairs leading off the plane, which he described as feeling like someone had a sledgehammer and they were pounding a 10-inch spike in my sacral, hammering away, he said. He then was forced to crawl across the airport tarmac to get to his wheelchair. Hoping to keep him as a customer, Delta apologized and assured him that they'd accommodate him in the future. But on Kanan's return flight, he was forced to repeat the process as Delta again lacked the proper equipment. Delta has agreed to pay Kanan. The details of the settlement are expected to be finalized in June.
United Airlines drags passenger off flight. United Airlines is facing yet another PR disaster. That's after this footage of a bloodied passenger being forcibly removed from a flight went viral. The man was dragged from his seat as the plane sat on the tarmac in Chicago on Sunday, bound for Louisville, Kentucky. It all kicked off when United needed to get 4 staff members to Louisville, but then realized the flight was already full and no seats were available. Passengers who volunteered to give up their seats and take a later flight were offered $400 in compensation and a free hotel stay. But even when that offer was doubled to $800, there were still no takers. That's when United decided to choose the volunteers themselves, and 4 passengers were randomly bumped from the plane. One couple left the airplane without incident, but the man in the video refused. He said he was a doctor and needed to get back to Louisville to see his patients. United staff told the man that security would be called if he didn't get off the plane. Again, he refused, and that's when things got physical.
No, this is wrong. Oh my God, look at what you did to him. Oh my.
While this incident was undoubtedly brutal, United is within its legal rights to overbook flights and to remove passengers from their planes. They just have to pay compensation of up to $1,350, depending on the length of the delay. 10 minutes later, the passenger ran back on the plane looking confused. Eventually, all the passengers were made to deboard and go back to the gate while the plane was cleaned up. The plane eventually arrived in Louisville 2 hours late. In a statement, United Airlines apologized for what they described as an overbooking situation, but didn't say sorry to the passenger who was dragged from his seat. In an email to staff on Monday, United CEO Oscar Munoz said the man was disruptive and belligerent. The Chicago Department of Aviation says the security officer who dragged the passenger out of his seat has been put on leave, pending an investigation.
Woman claims she was kicked off plane for excessive cleavage. A 21-year-old woman on board a Spirit Airlines flight from New Orleans to Fort Lauderdale says she was booted off the plane moments before takeoff because of her large breasts. On January 30th, the woman was sitting in her seat when she claims a flight attendant asked her to cover up her exposed bosom. She tried, but apparently her attempt wasn't satisfactory, and twice more she was told by the flight attendant to keep her chest PG. When she said she couldn't help the fact that her breasts were big and asked for a blanket, the staff told her the airline no longer offered them, so she put a coat on. A female passenger sitting in front turned around to offer the embarrassed young girl a tissue, and that's when a male flight attendant came by and asked them both to leave the plane, as well as the girl's friend. The sympathetic passenger, Catherine Supp, then posted her account of what happened to Facebook, blasting the airline staff for their hostile treatment toward the girl. Spirit Airlines stands by its decision, saying it was not a case of exposed skin, but of bad, possibly drunken behavior. A spokesman said the flight attendants had received numerous complaints about the girl acting drunk, a claim the girl and other passengers seated around her refute.
Say no to safe spaces on YouTube. Support TomoNews at patreon.com/TomoNews. Delta is pushing United hard in the bad publicity stakes.
So my kid, so my wife, we're gonna be in jail, and my kids are gonna be what?
It's a federal offense if you don't abide by it.
Another day, another airline controversy. This time it's Delta in the spotlight for kicking passengers off an oversold flight. Only now it's an entire family with young kids getting booted off and threatened with jail if they don't comply. This video was filmed on April 23rd aboard Delta Airlines Flight 2222 from Hawaii to Los Angeles. It was posted to YouTube on Wednesday by Dad Brian Shear from Huntington Beach, California. Shear's wife Brittany started filming when airline staff asked the family to give up a seat they had paid for to make space for another passenger. The couple was traveling with 2 toddlers. The seat was occupied by the couple's 2-year-old son. For safety reasons, they planned to strap him into a car seat placed on top of it. But the airline insisted Brian hold the boy in his lap.
Because he's 2 and under.
Okay, I got a solution. He can sit in her lap. Okay, and then we can take off, and then we can put him back in the car seat. That's what the FAA rules are.
No,
the bottom line
with
is...
him being... No, they're not. We're pulling him up right now. With him being 2, he cannot sit.
To make matters worse, airline staff said the child could not occupy a seat during the flight because it was against Federal Aviation Administration rules. Which is horseshit. In fact, the FAA recommends the toddlers sit in government-approved car seats for safety purposes. And so does Delta's own website. Oh, and never mind the kid was in the car seat when the Shears flew out to Hawaii in the first place. The issue that Delta used to trip the family up in the end was that the seat was originally booked in the name of Brian's 18-year-old son. But the teen flew back on an earlier flight so his brother would have a seat. The thinking being that otherwise the kid would not sleep on the 5-hour-long red-eye, and it would compromise safety with him crawling all over his parents' laps. But technically, tickets on Delta flights are non-transferable. Eventually, the family accepted that they couldn't win and asked if they could give up the seat and get in the air. Nuh-uh.
To have you guys all off the flight, or we're going to reclaim the whole aircraft and
So we're getting kicked off this plane no matter what now.
Instead, Delta threatened the family with jail if they didn't all get off the flight. They were told that not having anywhere to stay was not Delta's problem, and the family was on their own. So at around midnight, the Shears had to scramble around for a hotel. They then spent around $2,000 on a new flight leaving the next day. And as if things couldn't get any worse, that flight was with United. On Thursday, Delta apologized and said they'd contacted the family to offer them a refund and additional compensation. Guess Delta just wasn't happy with United getting all the limelight.